one small thing. When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Hello and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host, Joker.
I didn't think you'd actually do that.
I forgot the rest of the intro because I'm not used to it. And this week we're taking a look at the 2001 film, The Caveman's Valentine.
When I said that, I didn't think you would actually do that. But no, I'm Maverick, Dren, Zaria. Or am I? Wait, I'm a little confused now. So, The Caveman's Valentine. I mean, the title, that tells you all you need to know, right? It was released on March 2nd, 2001. It cost $13.5 million. And, well...
What, was it a complete failure?
Well, has anybody ever heard of this movie? Probably not. It might be because it didn't even make $1 million.
That's pretty bad.
600,000 something. So yeah, this might be the lowest grossing movie we've done so far.
I think you're right.
I mean, I'd never even heard of it, so... And you hadn't either. Unless you didn't tell me. So, for our cast, we have Samuel L. Jackson. This motherfucker just pops up in everything. And he's also an executive producer on this. So he really wanted this to get made.
Apparently.
Everyone knows who Samuel Jackson is, right? Okay.
Yeah. We've had him on enough, at the very least.
And in such different roles, too, because we had him as Mace Windu, we had him in Die Hard with a Vengeance as Zeus, and we... And then Quantum Quest as his best...
As a space lord with a distorted voice.
Yeah, his best character, Fear. And now we have him in this. And this might be his weirdest role, actually, but we'll get to that. We got Colm Fiore, which he is a returning cast member because he was in Face Off.
Oh.
As Dr. Walsh.
Oh, was he one of the guys that,
Yeah, that switched the faces, yeah.
Okay. He was also Toby the Tram Engine in a Thomas the Tank Engine movie.
What? Which movie was that? Was it, like, The Magic Railroad or something?
Yeah, it was Magic Railroad.
The one with Alec Baldwin in it. And Peter Fonda. He's also... He played Glenn Gould in 32 short films about Glenn Gould. Mm-hmm. And this was not his first time working with Sam Jackson, because he's also in The Red Violin.
Oh.
We also have Rusty Griswold himself, Anthony Michael Hall. I was literally just watching, like, the National Lampoon's Vacation movies not too long ago, so that was really funny that he was in this.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was him, actually.
I forgot that we had him on the podcast, too, because he's in The Dark Knight.
As who?
News reporter. He plays a news reporter.
Ah. He's also in Halloween Kills, apparently.
Kills. So if we do Halloween Kills, then I guess we're having Anthony Michael Hall on the podcast again. We also have Jeff Geddes, who was in Jason X. So that came out the same year as this, I think.
That's an impressive year for the man. He was in a lot in 2001.
The movie was directed by Cassie Lemons. And her other directing credits include another Samuel L. Jackson movie, Eve's Bayou.
Huh.
So what this movie was, it was just Samuel Jackson just got some of his friends together and they decided to make this a weird movie. Is that how this happened? Black Nativity. I don't know what that is. Harriet Tubman biopic. And a Whitney Houston biopic.
Huh. They're all very... those last two seem like very different movies to this.
These aren't. She's also an actress that appeared in The Silence of the Lambs.
Really?
Vampire's Kiss. And Candyman.
Huh.
Come to think of it, this movie feels a little bit like Candyman. Like the style of it, I noticed some similarities between these two movies. One of the producers was Danny DeVito, Frank Reynolds himself. Which, considering how weird his directing credits are, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. There's actually quite a few producers on this movie.
I noticed that, yeah. Like, the list was really long. Which makes you wonder, like, how easy is it to get a producer's credit on a movie? Like, what, you chip in, like, $2 and you're a producer? The movie was written by George Dawes Green, who also wrote the book that this movie was based on. Apparently, this is based on a book called The Caveman's Valentine.
I wonder how similar... Like, they have to be pretty similar if it's the same guy that wrote it that's adapting it to the screenplay.
You never know. I mean, Stephen King wrote the Pet Sematary movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
He wrote and directed Maximum Overdrive, which is based on one of his own stories. The music was done by Terrence Blanchard, who, I was looking at his credits, it seemed like it was mostly Spike Lee movies.
Okay.
So, Malcolm X, Black Klansman, and Bamboozled, among others. And you know, with all these names together, there's a lot of things I would expect that this collaboration would result in, and this is not one of them. Speaking of which, our initial thoughts.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think I'll start, because it's my fault that we did this. So, this is another one of those movies that I'm like, I don't know what this is. Let's do that. Because I think what happened is I was just scrolling through Samuel L. Jackson's filmography once, and then I saw this title, and it was so weird that I wanted to see it. That, and we haven't done a movie from 2001 yet, so...
Yeah.
I didn't even know what this movie was about. I think that, like, it's based on a book I've never heard of, for one thing, so I'm like... I don't even think the book has a Wikipedia page.
No, it doesn't. I tried checking for it.
And I also just, I mean, going in, I was like, there's no way this is going to top my favorite Samuel L. Jackson movie, which is, of course, the animated classic.
Attack of the Clones.
No, Quantum Quest to Cassini's Space Odyssey. My actual favorite Sam Jackson movie is probably The Incredibles, for the record. It's been 20 years and we still haven't gotten a superhero movie better than that one. So, Caveman's Valentine. we've done a lot of strange movies on this podcast, and this is one of them. There were so many bizarre choices that were made with this movie. I don't even know where to start. I did enjoy quite a lot of this movie due to how weird it was, because, I mean, I was hoping it would be weird, and it definitely lived up to that. And it's mainly just weird because of Samuel Jackson's character. Like, I've never seen a character like this in a movie, and probably never will. At one point, I wrote in my notes, what am I watching? And I was like drinking Pepsi while watching parts of this. I almost spit it out at one point. I was like, I had to be really careful. Like, how did we manage to select the two weirdest Sam Jackson movies and do them in a row? Back. Like, what? And we got another one coming up too, because we have to do Deep Blue Sea, which I don't remember it being as weird as these, but like. Okay, so before I get to your initial thoughts, I have a question for you. Okay, so you just saw Big Trouble in Little China for the first time not too long ago, correct?
Yeah.
Did you expect this movie to be even weirder than that one?
I'll be honest, I didn't know what to really expect from this just by the basic description. I thought this one was going to be pretty weird, but I don't know. So, I didn't really know about this movie until you brought it up to me. And I just kind of briefly pulled up the Wikipedia page and saw like a brief plot synopsis. So all I knew going into it was that it was about Samuel L. Jackson as a homeless man living in New York, and he stumbles upon some mystery and he thinks there's some like huge conspiracy behind it. That's all that I knew about this movie. After watching it, that was incredibly strange, but there are things that I actually really, really liked about the movie. I actually enjoyed watching this quite a bit. I liked the soundtrack quite a bit. I love that main piano piece that they play throughout. Some of the plot choices are really strange.
Really? Yeah, that's one way to put it.
The movie isn't fully cohesive, which I feel like is my biggest, problem with the movie, but it's just so weird and fascinating and interesting to watch that I actually enjoyed watching this movie.
I'm glad we're not doing recaps on this podcast anymore, because I was lost during the plot of this. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah, because good luck recapping this.
I just have like the basic synopsis down, because I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
So basically, this is our second favorite Samuel Jackson movie after Quantum Quest.
Exactly. It's my second favorite movie on the podcast.
After Quantum Quest. Which, if anyone who hasn't listened to our Quantum Quest podcast, please do so. That movie was fucking ridiculous.
It's such a weird movie.
Okay, come to think of it, I rewatched Joker earlier today, and, like, there's not very many movies I would compare to this, but I mean...
Yeah, who's a better crazy person?
Joker has kind of the similarity where, like, the main character is a fucking lunatic, and we just follow them the whole time. So... okay, the plot. Which, this is a mouthful. The plot is that a homeless dude with schizophrenia, played by Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson, finds a frozen dead guy in the park, and then tries to figure out who killed him because he was friends with the guy, I think. Or there was like an agreement. I don't remember exactly.
So,
and then the rest of it's just he meets some other characters dot, dot, dot. Okay, but we can
So
get into the weird details. I'm saving some of that.
I'll add a little bit more context to the plot. Because I took some notes on it, trying to just follow it. So, Sam Jackson's character, who's called the Caveman because he lives in a cave, he thinks that there's this man, named, I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember.
It's like Stevensant is I think how he said it.
He like
Stevensant,
lives up in the Chrysler
who lives
building.
in the Chrysler building, controlling everything, and he thinks that this man named Stevensant is like plotting against him, and so he thinks that Stevensant was responsible for this kid's death, and so that's why he's investigating it, is to try and get back at the man he thinks is controlling everything.
It was all so jumbled and confusing. I didn't know what to really. But basically, the main premise of it's a murder mystery from the point of view of a lunatic. So,
yeah.
To be fair, the movie's kind of a mess on purpose. So
yeah, no, it really is, which is why it's hard to judge it for being a mess, because it's from the point of view of this absolutely psychotic character.
And maybe that's why it was hard to market, because I mean, how do you market a weird movie like this? Okay, so I guess getting into pros with this, I mean, the reason we watched it, Samuel L. Jackson.
He was fantastic in this movie. He's yelling for probably like 2/3 to 3/4 of it, just screaming at the top of his lungs. It's amazing.
It's just so funny. Like, literally, the very first scene of him is just him acting crazy and yelling at people. But it works for this character, because his character in this is so weird. Okay, so he's a homeless dude with dreadlocks and a huge beard that lives in a cave in a park. I didn't think they were going to take the caveman thing literally with this, but he literally lives in a cave in this movie. And he has a TV in this cave, by the way.
Don't ask me how that works, I don't know.
And he just, all throughout the movie, he just has these weird hallucinations of angels. And he thinks the Chrysler building is the Eye of Sauron or something. Like,
so actually, I want to talk about those angels. He calls them the Moth Seraphs. They're basically like this choir plus orchestra that plays music in his head. That gets really loud whenever he's going really crazy. It's a weird choice, but I actually kind of like it, because it sort of makes the movie more frantic, kind of like, you know, Sam Jackson's character.
Yeah, it definitely, And like the angels, I read somewhere that they were like athletes or something, and they were like wearing like wings. But speaking of the music, we also find out he used to play piano and he went to Juilliard.
Yeah.
Which that does come up a few times, because he like plays the piano for Anthony Michael Hall and his wife at one point.
And that's also why his schizophrenic visions are of that sort of angel choir performing music.
But yeah, so basically this movie is an excuse for Samuel Jackson to play a mentally ill homeless dude that yells at people, which is amazing. I mean...
And then they make him solve a murder mystery.
Yeah, like... I'll give them this. It's unique. I mean... It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I haven't seen anything like it.
And it's kind of unintentionally hilarious at points, but it's new. I mean, you gotta do something to differentiate a mystery movie. It was so confusing, too, because he was, like, having all these, like, hallucinations. Like, it was kind of trying to go for the whole, like, is this real or all in his head kind of feel, and it was so confusing.
It kind of got confusing, especially like in the middle, when they were getting really strong, and you're like, okay, who are these like faceless people that are like attacking him and mugging him? Are they real? What's happening?
Again, it's sort of like Joker, but in Joker, you can obviously tell that he's having like a
Yeah.
hallucination or something. Like there were scenes in this that I think were dreams, but I wasn't sure. Like,
Oh, he also sees his dead wife quite a bit.
yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Like, was that was supposed to be his wife, right? Because she
Yeah,
like just
yeah.
shows up, and I was like, wait, what is this? Like,
And like they'll have conversations with each other and no one acknowledges anything.
yeah, so it's sort of like Christmas Carol or something, where like
Yeah.
Scrooge is like, but anyway, like he's with the ghosts, but nobody else sees them. But anyway, although the characters in this, they very much see Samuel L. Jackson. There's one part where this is my favorite scene actually. Samuel L. Jackson was fighting Slee Stacks in the park. Oh wait, that was Land of the Lost. Sorry. Honestly, that would have fit right in this movie. There were like weird camera flourishes. Like, I mean, to be fair, the movie is from the point of view of a mentally ill homeless man, and this
Yeah.
movie feels like a movie from the point of view of a mentally ill homeless man.
They do have some pretty. They play around with the color a bit, especially at the end when there's sort of this confrontation on a subway car.
There were like these green
Where-
flashes that would happen occasionally.
Yeah, there'd be green flashes, or like everything on the subway would go dark except for like blue lights coming in from the windows, which I thought looked kind of cool.
I mean, it's unique. I'll give him that. And the editing was weird too. They're like,
there's also shots that are supposed to look like they're from security cameras to give you the feeling that he's being watched.
or like shaky cam. They do use like shaky
Yeah.
cam a bit to like make it
Yeah.
seem like a documentary at points. I noticed that. Yeah. They're like weird lens flares and flashes. Like, there's one part where he was like talking on the phone and it just had some random cuts in it, and I was like, "What? Like, this is so weird." Am I watching a Godard movie or something?
Oh yeah, isn't that the one where he's like talking to someone on the phone and then all of a sudden he's just lying on the ground in the library or something?
I don't know. It was so random. So some of the other characters in this movie, we have his daughter, who is a cop that thinks he's crazy, and I mean, to be fair,
To be fair, he is crazy.
he thinks that like there's a dude that lives in the Chrysler building that controls everything. So,
That's shooting out Y rays and Z rays at people.
yes. Is he shooting X-rays as well, or something? And you can tell they have like this strained relationship going on, like,
Yeah.
because I think their mom, his wife, died, right?
Yeah, and it's never really explained what sort of pushed him to this point, but you can kind of feel like that might have had something to do with it.
He just kind of went crazy. He just became a homeless dude. It's just so weird that like she's a cop, but he's homeless. So you're wondering, like,
Yeah.
so you're kind of like going, maybe he could go live with her, but wait, he's kind of off his rocker. So,
Yeah.
the music was weird. I don't know how to describe it, but like,
I really liked the music. It was a lot of it was this sort of orchestral piece that was mixed with this piano song that he plays at one point in the movie. And it tends to get really loud and intense whenever I don't want to say whenever his schizophrenia gets strong, because that's technically not what happens, but that's what the movie says happens. So whenever his like hallucinations are at the worst, or whenever he's like super manic, the music gets really intense, and it's supposed to be the music that he's hearing. So I kind of like how it's incorporated, and I just like how the music sounds.
I wasn't sure what to make of it, honestly. It was very. That was kind of just the whole movie, though. It was just really frantic and weird, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
Something else we
Cause
should
like
point out.
the music score, it kind of just, from what I remembered, it was like this. There was this really ominous piano score, and then sometimes it'd be just like this really dramatic orchestral score. So it was strange. It's kind of all over the place. But again, like this movie. Oh, and another thing about Sam Jackson's character, his name, Romulus Ledbetter. I was like, wait, is that his whole name? Really? That's his name? Like, as if his character wasn't already weird enough.
So then with the other characters that are in the movie, we mentioned his daughter, who's a police officer. Then there's David Leppenraub.
He's the guy that they kind of set him up as maybe the bad guy.
And he's like this photographer.
He does S&M art that he like keeps in his basement.
Yeah. And Sam Jackson, the caveman, is pretty sure that he's the guy that killed the man in the park. And so he's basically trying to use Leppenraub to get to Sivitson.
The evil dude that lives in the Chrysler building.
Stivison. Yeah, the evil dude that lives in the Chrysler building.
Yeah. Another thing I was gonna mention, like, and this is something I definitely wouldn't have expected from, like, the title and stuff. Apparently, this is the most homoerotic movie we've done on the podcast.
Yeah, it's up there with, like, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, I suppose.
Because in this one, you have, like, and this is a positive, by the way, because you have this guy who does this, like, art, like, in his basement, a lot of pictures of, like, naked guys. Like, 3 of the characters in this are gay, if I remember right, including the guy that got murdered, or not, as we find out later, but I'll get to that.
Well, we'll
get to it now. There's like nudity, and, you know, we see Sam Jackson naked at one point. So yeah, I was like going into this movie, I was like, I wasn't expecting that in this.
And so the kid that was murdered was like his apprentice.
Yeah.
Or no, it was more of his model. So he would take a bunch of like nude photos of him. But he has a new model already lined up by the name of Joey.
Which guy was the camera guy?
That was Joey.
Okay, yeah, that guy.
Because he's like shooting videos of him for like a documentary or something. But he's also his new nude model.
There's one funny part where the camera guy that works for Leppenraub says he's gonna shoot Sam Jackson, which startles him. But he just wants to film him.
Yeah, no, I like the line because he's like, "You want me to shoot you here?" And Sam Jackson's like, "Well, I guess here's better than any other place," thinking that he has like a gun on him when it's just his camera. There's also Bob, this really minor character that brings in Caveman for a bit and gives him a new suit.
Oh, that was Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
He, like, that was kind of weird about this, but there was, like, because his character didn't really do much that impacted the plot aside from give Sam Jackson clothes and let him stay in his house.
He gave him clothes and introduced him. No, he didn't even introduce him to Leppenraub. That was a different guy that he called up. Yeah, all he did was give him clothes.
I guess they're just like, oh, we got Anthony Michael Hall to be in our movie. Okay. Look, I like The Breakfast Club, but could we give them a little more to do in this?
Their relationship becomes a bit strained because Caveman assumes that he's working for the man in the Chrysler Tower. Because I don't know if you've seen how this name is spelled. Let me send it to you.
I don't know. I was like,
It's like I don't know how to pronounce this. Stuyvesant. Stuyvesant.
the plot to this was a bit all over the place. That's what I'll say. And then also, Lep and Rob has a sister that Samuel Jackson like has sex with in one scene.
Yeah.
And also the build up to that scene was because there's like this weird part where he like puts a match in his mouth and it like lights up his teeth. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Well, he mentioned that earlier on in the movie, and I didn't think that was gonna come back. Because he meets a friend from Juilliard earlier on, and he's talking to that guy's wife, and he's like, I don't know if he's told you this, but I can put a match in my mouth and look like a glowing jack-o'-lantern. And I didn't expect him to actually do it later in the movie.
I don't remember that line, so that scene really came out of nowhere for me. And then there's there's this weird black and white sex scene between them, and they just met not too long ago.
Yeah,
so I was like, this is ridiculous. Like,
and then the hallucination of Caveman's dead wife shows up and makes like a joke because of it, and then disappears again. Should we talk about how the case is solved?
I was gonna get to that in the cons, but one thing. There was like a video of a guy on a meat hook.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be like the film of the guy that got killed, of what was happening to him before he died.
And I wrote, is this from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And then they're like they tried like hanging the guy from a tree with angel wings, but he was scared of heights. So they ended up doing that. So he was gay and scared of heights. That's the most relatable character on this podcast for me. I don't know what else to say about this fucking movie without getting into cons, because like this was a weird mess of a movie.
Yeah, we can get into some of the cons.
The cons, okay, so this is minor, but the font on the opening credits.
The font of the opening credits? I don't even remember what
it
the
looked
font
like
was.
Something you'd get from like Microsoft Office or something. Like I was like, what is
They probably did, I mean.
It was like a little bit jagged or something. I'm like, I don't know what font it was, but it looked like something from.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. It's in the trailer. It's kind of like, it's supposed to look like an old typewriter.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look like the font on the poster, huh? Weird. Okay. Is it just me, or were some of these shots too fast?
It was very frantic.
Like, just the way it's shot. Again, going back to that scene with him on the phone, and it's just, like, cutting, like, so many times, and really, again, for what seemed like no reason. And there were just scenes that didn't flow together, like, the scene where he's on the phone then just goes to a scene of him talking to Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah, no, it likes to jump around. It's very much then we get a scene of, because he gets the information he needs and then he's there. There's no, like, in between.
And like I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the scenes with Anthony Michael Hall really add nothing to the movie.
Yeah.
Aside from giving Sam Jackson a place to stay for a bit.
Yeah, a place to stay, and then establishing that he's a musician.
Oh, that would have been a twist. Have Anthony Michael Hall be the bad guy.
I thought they were going to reveal that he was the Stuyvesant.
He should have had some kind of there should have been some connection.
And I will say that to me was sort of the biggest hole in this movie, was the fact that this whole Stuyvesant plot, it just peters out at the end. The dead wife is like, oh, it's just the craziness that you made up. but it feels like it's such a driving force in the movie, and it just gets dropped a third of the way through and then just gets mentioned at the end. Like, it feels like they meant to do something with it and just decided to not do it. It just feels weird and out of place and like a big thing of like wasted potential, really.
Then again, it is just some weird delusion from a mentally ill homeless man. So yeah, I hadn't thought of that. They could have just had it so like maybe Stevenson. I don't know what the fuck how the fuck to pronounce it. Maybe they could have had it so he is a real guy, but he's not.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's nowhere near as powerful as Sam Jackson thinks he is. But I mean, he
Yeah.
does live in the Chrysler Building. Like maybe have it be some other
Or
crazy
like
homeless dude, and he just lives in the Chrysler Building or something.
or turn it into a they live situation where there really is just some asshole in the Chrysler Building trying to make his life worse for no reason.
And you can only see him if you like put on like sunglasses. Yeah, that would be funny. They like really the only thing that really changes after he goes to be with Anthony Michael Hall is like they get him some clothes and he shaves.
Yeah.
But he keeps the dreadlocks because I mean,
yeah.
You can't take away Sam Jackson's dreadlocks. I mean, it's probably just a wig.
There are
though,
also
'cause he's
these
usually bald in movies.
Yeah. There's also these flashback scenes that are in like a really saturated black and white, and it just looks terrible.
So weird, yeah. They looked like they were filmed by Zack Snyder. Take that, Zack Snyder. Yeah, just some weird camera angles. The one that made me laugh, like Anthony Michael Hall, like shoves a drink right towards the camera. I burst out laughing when that because that felt like one of those shots that would be in a movie with a 3D gimmick.
Yeah.
Like some of the shots in like Jaws 3D or Friday the 13th Part 3 or something. Where they just like shove something right towards the camera. I just did not know what was going on in this movie. It's just him going places for some reason. There's one part where he goes to a barn and talks to his like the ghost of his dead wife, I guess. I mean,
See, I think I also have this in my cons, part of this concept, but I think they didn't go far enough. I don't think he was crazy enough throughout the film. I think they needed to go a little bit farther.
He wasn't crazy enough. That's saying something, because he's very much crazy in this.
Well, because he's crazy and like they play it up a bit, but then like it'll just be these bursts of mania throughout, and then there'll be a couple scenes where like he's kind of crazy, but they're not really playing around with the scene as much as they normally do because like at the end of the movie they do all this visual stuff, and then sometimes when he's crazy they do music stuff, but then there's other times where he's just crazy and yelling, and it's just sort of like you could have done something to play with us a little bit more.
Maybe there's like more of a build up or something.
Yeah, maybe fit like just crescendo throughout the film instead of just being sporadic throughout.
Like sort of like American Psycho, where like the more it goes on, you're like wondering, is this dude like hallucinating all this, or like did this actually happen?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The movie tries to be like moody, and it it does not work. Like it's too weird and ridiculous. Like it's not very suspenseful. It just it's just all over the place. That's really the best way I can. Because on one hand, it has like this ridiculous, like crazy character played by Sam Jackson, and then you just put that in like this a murder mystery plot that's not that much of a mystery, really. I mean, There are also parts of this that kind of felt like a TV movie. Like,
A little, actually, it feels like you.
I was thinking specifically of like those Jesse Stone movies with Tom Selleck.
I was about to say it feels like they could have been something like almost like a TV series where maybe they give him like every 2 or 3 episodes a new murder to solve, try and make his way to Stevenson.
I'd love to see this show.
It might have helped a bit more with the pacing.
And the guest stars, who do we got? Steve Buscemi.
He would have to be another homeless man.
That's another homeless man, Jesus. How do you do, fellow hobo? Yeah, I was like watching it. There were like some parts of it. I was like, this kind of feels like Stone Cold or like Night Passage. Again, one of those like Tom Selleck TV movies. But then occasionally, like it would just get really psychotic and turn into something else. And some of the scenes didn't really even make sense. Like there was a part where he like got drunk at Anthony Michael Hall's house while a party was happening, and he was just ranting and raving.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I thought he was gonna try and like jump out of the building because he was like opening up the window and climbing towards it."
It did kind of look like that, yeah, like he was gonna commit suicide. Yeah, it was weird. I don't know what the point of that scene was. He gets beat up in a park by some guys in white masks. Towards the end, which it just that was ridiculous. Like again, I could not take this movie seriously. I think was the and the ending twist. Okay,
do you want me to?
So I remember just
do you want me to take this one
and just be like, "Oh my god, this is so fucking stupid," and also overly complicated for some. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Like this movie did not like do very well as a mystery movie.
No.
I gotta say, like nothing felt earned or anything. It was just weird and all. Okay, you can go. Sorry.
So, we mentioned earlier that there was this video of let me pull up my characters' names list just so I can keep these two. All right, so it was supposedly showing Scotty hanging on this meat hook, and he had this brand of a heart on one of his butt cheeks, but he was talking to the sister of David Lebenram, and she didn't remember him having a heart brand on his butt cheek. And then the autopsy report that he got from his cop daughter didn't mention that either. So he knew that the person in that video couldn't have been the victim. And so from that, he figures out that it was instead the victim's boyfriend who was Joey, the guy that was the cameraman.
The cameraman, yeah.
And that's all the buildup they do to get to the end scene. There's no like trail of clues he follows. He finds this one clue at the end of the movie, and that's how he solves the murder. He's like, well, because he faked the video, he had to be the killer.
To be fair, that's probably how this would actually happen. I mean, I can't imagine this dude solving.
But it makes it terrible. It's a bad choice for a murder mystery.
It's like something out of a fucking like Pink Panther movie where Inspector Clouseau just solves it on accident. Like, or something. Like what? But like it's weird because the whole time you're like, oh, it's like it's not the sadomasochistic rich guy that's the killer. It turns out it's the camera guy, and the dead guy wasn't even dead at all. He was posing as Scotty, and the camera guy is Scotty. It was just so. It was confusing and stupid.
Yeah.
It was a bad twist. I mean, so nobody was actually murdered? Like...
No, there was an actual murder. It's just he disguised himself as the other guy for the video. That was like the switch out. The guy was actually murdered.
Because I was gonna say, like, I mean, nobody actually died. That makes the whole movie pointless then in that case. Attempted murder. It's not like he killed someone. Yeah, okay, that's at least less stupid than what I thought it was. But that says a lot about the movie, though. It was just they did not explain it well
No.
at all. It was just it came out of nowhere. It was just like, what is this? This was all happening on a subway train too, I might add.
I actually kind of liked the location, and I think I mentioned I like some of the visual effects going on there because it was showing him go crazy. I just wish they had earned the scene a little bit more.
The thing is, it was making me think this was like gonna turn into The Fugitive, like the ending of The Fugitive, where he fights the one-armed guy on the subway train. So the plot was confusing. Another thing, the script was just, I mean, clearly from recapping this, the script was not very good.
No.
It was a mess. And what's hilarious is this was adapted from a book by the same guy who wrote the book.
Yeah.
And it still turned out to be nonsense. Like, what?
It kind of makes me want to see how the book holds up, to see if maybe he's just a better novelist.
Maybe it makes more sense on the written page than it does as a movie. Granted,
yeah. How much is this on Amazon?
I don't know. I tried looking for the book. I was like, I can't find it.
Only one left in stock.
Well, you better buy it now, kids.
Yeah. What do you mean it's not on Audible?
There were like lines of dialogue that were just kind of weird. Like it just didn't. The movie just didn't flow right. And some of the acting I was noticing was just kind of melodramatic. Like during that subway scene, I was like, "Wow, that camera dude is like just."
Yeah.
Granted, maybe it was the directing or something, but it came across as just so like ham-fisted. It just did not work. I was a little confused by the ending. So does he? Because he leaves the park.
I think it's implied that he's going to try and live with his daughter for a little bit.
That's what I thought, but he wasn't really going with her for some. I don't know.
Well, he didn't want to at first. He just wanted to return to his cave, but then there was like a bunch of like extra graffiti on his cave, and like people knew who he was after this. And so I don't think he wanted the attention.
Maybe he went to like a lake and like walked on it and realized he could walk on water or something, like the ending of Being there. Do you want to get into overall thoughts? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what to add. I mean, this was a weird movie. The premise was strange. It had some enjoyable parts, mostly because of how bizarre Samuel Jackson's character was. I mean, just the fact he's a caveman who lives in the park and hallucinates, and he has to solve a murder. I mean, what the fuck is this? Like, that's... I don't know if I would say this was a good movie, but it was interesting. Had some homoeroticism in it, so it wasn't all bad. It wasn't a very good mystery film, but it was amusing.
No.
So
yeah,
I enjoyed my time watching it, but I don't know what the fuck it was. I was a little... I think perplexing is the best word to describe this movie. You can add whatever you need to add.
I guess for my final thoughts, it is a strange movie, like we mentioned. It's a film about this homeless madman that looks like it was filmed by a homeless madman.
You give a homeless man a camera, is this what he would come up with? Or no, sorry. Not a homeless man. A homeless man with schizophrenia.
who thinks the man living in the Chrysler building is coming after him.
Yeah, apparently the Chrysler building is the Eye of Sauron.
So it's a weird movie. It tries to be a mystery movie, and the mystery doesn't really work all
No.
that well. So some strange choices with plot. For instance, the Chrysler man never really amounts to much in the movie. He's just kind of dropped like early on in the film. You don't hear much about him again. But Samuel Jackson is very fun to watch throughout this. He had some funny lines. He had
I think that's what
performance.
I think if Samuel L. Jackson wasn't in this movie, it would be fucking awful. I think that's what it was.
And then I think some of the choices...
You put a weird character like that in a movie, it becomes like 10 times more entertaining as a result.
And I think some of the choices that they used to show his madness were interesting. I especially liked the use of music throughout the movie. The songs I thought were pretty good. Am I ever going to watch this movie again? Probably not, but...
You can the way to watch it now is invite some friends over, don't tell them what they're about to watch, and just pop it in and see what they think.
But I don't know if I'm ever gonna watch this again, but like I don't feel cheated. I'm not like angry that I watched. It was an okay movie. It wasn't anything horrible.
This movie has a lot of things. I don't know if okay is the right word. I'm gonna see. No Blu-ray for this one.
Yeah, no. I don't. Something we haven't mentioned is that you can't really stream this anywhere.
How did you watch it, by the way?
I looked up "Watch the Caveman's Valentine" free online and found a site to do it.
I have like this Russian pirating website I use. I found it on there. That's how I watch most of the movies we do on this podcast.
I can get the VHS tape off of Amazon for $1.50. Is it on Laserdisc?
If you want to buy it on VHS, it's apparently available on Amazon. You can buy it from Jeff, and he can send it to you. And you can buy it on DVD. I don't know if the DVD's available right now. Wait. Yeah, it is. Oh, it's in widescreen, too. What the fuck did this get a widescreen? Like, of all the movies. I mean, again, it's one of those movies that, I mean, it's not very good, but, like, I've never seen something quite like it, so I have to give it some credit for that. Kind of the same with, like, I mean, to a lesser extent than Quantum Quest. Like, Quantum Quest is much more ridiculous, but it's kind of in that same category of I'm glad it exists, because
Yeah.
And let me guess, you said this was your second favorite movie of the podcast.
Exactly.
Behind Quantum Quest. It has 2 fans on Letterboxd, so there's 2 people on Letterboxd.
That's all you need.
That consider it one of their favorite movies.
I'll join them. I'll sign up for Letterboxd and add that.
Be warned, though, if you're going into this for Anthony Michael Hall, he's barely in it.
Yeah.
So, is that all? Do we have anything else to...
I think that's it.
Okay, our next podcast, we are doing Deep Blue Sea, which...
also has... Samuel L. Jackson.
If you aren't sick of us having Samuel L. Jackson on the podcast, lucky you, he's in this one too.
And until then, Andy Griffith.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.